They called it a joke. Her siblings rolled their eyes when their father left her a crumbling gas station instead of cash. "Take the 25K and walk away," they mocked. But the moment she found the brass key and unlocked the underground door, they realized she hadn't inherited junk. She'd inherited a 200 million secret that could destroy them. The fluorescent lights of Mel's diner flickered overhead as Carmen Rodriguez balanced 3 plates of scrambled eggs and hash browns along her forearm. Her uniform was spattered with small stains from a double shift that had begun at 5 a.m. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but she maintained a warm smile for her customers. "Order up for table 7, she called, sliding the plates in front of a family of tourists. "Can I get you folks anything else?" The father glanced up from his phone. "We're good," he said. Carmen nodded and moved to her next table, checking her watch. 2 more hours until her shift ended, and then she had to pick up the twins from school. Mia and Luna were 12 now, bright girls with their father's dark eyes and her own stubborn determination. The thought of them gave her strength when her feet ached and her back screamed from hours of carrying heavy trays. As she refilled coffee cups, her phone vibrated in her pocket. Normally, Carmen wouldn't check it during her shift, but the twins' school appeared on the screen. With a quick apology to her table, she stepped away to answer. "Ms. Rodriguez? This is Principal Gaines. I'm calling about Luna." Carmen's heart sank. "Is she all right?" "She's fine physically, but there was an incident with another student. Apparently, there were some comments made about your living situation." Luna responded rather forcefully. Carmen closed her eyes. "She hit someone?" "No, but her verbal response was quite colorful. We need you to come in for a meeting. I'm working a double shift today. Could we?" "Ms. Rodriguez, this is the 3rd incident this month." Carmen glanced at her manager, who was already giving her a disapproving look. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, she said, knowing this would cost her dearly, both in lost wages and her boss's goodwill. After a tense conversation with her manager, Carmen hurried to her car, a 15-year-old sedan with peeling paint and a passenger door that sometimes refused to open. As she drove to the school, her phone rang again. The screen displayed Marcus, her brother's name. She hesitated before answering. Conversations with her brother rarely brought good news. "Hello?" she said, putting him on speaker. "Carmen, where are you? I've been trying to reach you all morning." Marcus's voice was sharp, impatient. "I'm working, Marcus. Some of us have jobs that don't come with assistants to answer our phones." He ignored the barb. Dad's attorney called. "They've scheduled the will reading for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Carmen's grip tightened on the steering wheel. It had been 6 weeks since her father's heart attack. 6 weeks of grief that she'd had to push aside to keep food on the table and a roof over her daughters' heads. Roberto Rodriguez had been her anchor, the one person in her family who never made her feel less than. Now he was gone, and the wound still felt fresh. "I have a shift tomorrow," she said. "Cancel it," Marcus replied. "This is important, Carmen. The whole family will be there." By the whole family, Carmen knew he meant himself, their sister Victoria, and their respective spouses, the successful branches of the Rodriguez family tree, not her ex-husband Derek, who had left her for his secretary 3 years ago, and now lived in a lakeside condo while she struggled to make rent on a 2-bedroom apartment. "I'll try," she said finally, "but I can't promise anything." Marcus sighed, the sound crackling through the car's speakers. "This is exactly why Dad worried about you. You never prioritize the right things." Before Carmen could respond, he continued, "Victoria and I have been handling all the funeral arrangements, the estate paperwork, everything, while you've been, what, serving pancakes? The least you could do is show up for the reading." Carmen pulled into the school parking lot, her hands shaking with a mixture of anger and hurt. "I'll be there," she said. "I have to go." She ended the call before Marcus could say anything else, taking a moment to compose herself before heading into the school. This was her reality now, racing between work and her daughter's needs, enduring her siblings' condescension, and grieving alone for the father who had been her only ally. The meeting with Principal Gaines went as expected. Luna sat stone-faced in the corner while the principal expressed concerns about her adjustment difficulties. The other student, a girl named Brittany whose mother headed the PTA, had reportedly commented that Luna's clothes were probably from a dumpster. Luna responded by saying some very inappropriate things about Brittany's character and parentage. The principal explained, his expression stern. Carmen looked at her daughter, whose chin was raised defiantly despite the tears shimmering in her eyes. "I understand that Luna's response wasn't appropriate," Carmen said carefully, "but it sounds like Brittany was bullying her about our financial situation." Principal Gaines cleared his throat. "We're speaking with Brittany's parents as well, of course, but given Luna's pattern of outbursts, we're recommending counseling. Counseling they couldn't afford, another expense to somehow squeeze from her already stretched budget. We'll work on it at home," Carmen promised, placing a hand on Luna's shoulder. As they walked to the car, Luna finally spoke. "I'm not sorry," she said, her voice small but determined. "She says that stuff all the time." Carmen unlocked the car. "I know it's hard, but we can't let people like that see they've gotten to us. Dad would have let me fight back," Luna muttered, climbing into the back seat. "He said sometimes you have to stand up for yourself." Carmen felt a fresh wave of grief wash over her. Derek had been largely absent since the divorce, appearing for occasional weekends and school events when it suited him. His child support payments were sporadic at best, despite his well-paying job. Yet somehow, in the twins' eyes, he remained the fun parent, the one who understood them. "Your father says a lot of things," Carmen replied, keeping her voice neutral. "But he's not the one dealing with phone calls from the school." Luna fell silent, staring out the window as they drove back to their apartment. Mia would be waiting for them, probably hungry and worried about her sister. Carmen would have just enough time to make them a quick dinner before heading back for the evening shift she'd abandoned. More hours lost, more income they couldn't afford to miss. As they turned onto their street, Carmen spotted a sleek black SUV parked in front of their building. Her sister Victoria stood beside it, impeccably dressed in a designer suit, sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted hair despite the cloudy day. "What's she doing here?" Luna asked. Carmen parked and braced herself. Victoria rarely visited their apartment, and when she did, it was never without purpose. "Tia Victoria," Luna called as they approached, her tone suddenly bright. Carmen recognized the act. Luna knew that appearing happy and well-adjusted would irritate Victoria, who seemed to expect them to be visibly suffering at all times. Victoria removed her sunglasses, revealing expertly applied makeup that concealed any evidence that she too had lost her father 6 weeks ago. "Luna, darling," she said, offering air kisses. "How are you bearing up?" "I'm good," Luna replied cheerfully. "Mom's teaching me how to make Dad's special empanadas." Victoria's gaze flicked to Carmen, a flash of something, annoyance. Surprise? Crossing her features. "How?" "Therapeutic," she said. "Carmen, could we speak privately?" Inside the cramped apartment, Mia was at the small kitchen table, textbooks spread around her. Unlike her sister, Mia channeled her feelings into academics, maintaining perfect grades despite everything. She looked up as they entered, her expression brightening briefly at the sight of her aunt before returning to its usual careful neutrality. "Tia," she said politely, standing to offer a hug that Victoria returned stiffly. "Girls, why don't you go to your room while I talk to your aunt?" Carmen suggested, setting down her purse. Once the twins had disappeared behind their bedroom door, Victoria surveyed the apartment with barely concealed disdain. Her eyes lingered on the sagging couch, the mismatched dishes drying by the sink, the water stain on the ceiling that the landlord had promised to fix months ago. "Marcus said you were being difficult about tomorrow," she said. Carmen sighed. "Too tired for pretense." "I wasn't being difficult. I was being realistic. I have to work." "It's Dad's will reading, Carmen. Surely even you can arrange coverage for one afternoon. Even you." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Even you, the family disappointment. Even you, the one who couldn't keep her marriage together. Even you, the college dropout working as a waitress at 38. "I already told Marcus I'll be there," Carmen said, keeping her voice level. "Is that all you came to say?" Victoria moved to the small window, looking out at the view of the parking lot. "No, actually. I wanted to give you a heads up. Marcus and I have been going through Dad's finances." Something in her tone made Carmen tense. And it's worse than we thought. The gas station has been losing money for years. There are back taxes, outstanding loans. Victoria turned, her expression a practiced blend of concern and resignation. "Dad wasn't the best businessman, we all know that." Carmen felt a familiar defensiveness rise within her. "He managed to support a family of 5 and put you and Marcus through college on that gas station's income. That was 20 years ago, before the chain stations moved in. The last few years have been difficult. Marcus and I have been helping him make ends meet." This was news to Carmen. "He never mentioned that to me." Victoria's smile was thin. "He wouldn't, would he? Not to you. He always wanted to be your hero." The words stung because they contained a grain of truth. Roberto had always protected Carmen, from childhood bullies to her siblings' criticisms to her ex-husband's cruelty. Even when she'd made mistakes, dropping out of college to marry Derek, putting her own ambitions on hold to support his career. "Why are you telling me this now?" Carmen asked. "Because the estate is complicated. There are debts to settle, the property to deal with. Marcus and I think it's best if we handle everything. You have enough on your plate with," she gestured vaguely at the apartment, "all this." "I want to help," Carmen insisted. "Dad was my father too." "Of course he was," Victoria said, her tone softening into something almost patronizing. "But let's be practical. What do you know about estate law or property management?" Before Carmen could respond, the front door opened and Derek appeared, still in his sales director suit, his expression thunderous. He barely acknowledged Victoria before turning to Carmen. "Where's Luna?" he demanded. "I got a call from the school." Carmen felt a headache building behind her eyes. "She's in her room. There was an incident with another student. It's been handled." Derek's face reddened. "Handled? This is the third time this month, Carmen. If you can't control her, perhaps I should go." Victoria interjected smoothly, clearly uncomfortable witnessing this domestic discord. She gathered her designer purse and slipped past Derek with a murmured, "Good to see you." Once Victoria had left, Derek lowered his voice, aware the twins might hear. "This is exactly what I was talking about in our last custody discussion. Your living situation, your work hours. The girls need stability." Carmen felt her patience snap. What they need is a father who pays his child support on time and doesn't cancel weekends when his new wife makes other plans. Derek's jaw tightened. "Stephanie and I have a lot of social obligations, and if you'd accepted the promotion they offered you at the insurance office instead of quitting—" "I quit because they expected me to work 60-hour weeks for barely more than I make now, with no flexibility for the girls' schedules." Carmen cut him off. Derek had never understood why she couldn't just make it work the way other divorced mothers did. He conveniently forgot that those women often had family support, reliable co-parents, or exes who actually paid their court-ordered child support. Derek glanced at his watch. "I have a dinner meeting. Tell Luna I expect better behavior. And Carmen," he added, his voice dripping with condescension, "try to get it together. For the girls' sake." After he left, Carmen leaned against the closed door. She should be getting ready for her evening shift, not dealing with family drama. But bills waited for no one, especially single mothers with twins and unreliable child support. The bedroom door cracked open and Mia peered out. "Is Dad gone?" Carmen nodded, attempting a smile. "He had a meeting. Come on out, both of you. I need to make you dinner before I go back to work." As she pulled pasta from the cupboard, Luna emerged, her expression stormy. "I heard him. He thinks we should live with him and Stephanie." "He didn't say that," Carmen replied. "He doesn't even want us there," Mia said quietly. "Stephanie calls us the baggage when she thinks we can't hear." Carmen paused in filling the pot with water. "She what?" Luna nodded. "Last time we stayed over, she told her friend on the phone that she was stuck with the baggage for the weekend. That's why I don't want to go there anymore." This was new information, and it made her blood boil, but she forced herself to remain calm. "I'll talk to your father about it." "No," both girls said in unison. "He'll just deny it," Mia explained. "And then Stephanie will be even worse next time." Carmen looked at her daughters, these perceptive, resilient girls who were navigating a world much more complicated than any 12-year-old should have to face. They'd lost their grandfather, endured their parents' divorce, and now dealt with school bullies and a stepmother who resented their very existence. "What would you like me to do?" she asked them. The twins exchanged a look, having one of those silent conversations that never ceased to amaze Carmen. "Nothing," Luna said finally. "We can handle Stephanie. Just don't make us go there more than we have to." Carmen nodded slowly. "Okay, but promise you'll tell me if things get worse." As she cooked dinner, a simple pasta with sauce from a jar, nothing like the elaborate meals her father used to prepare, Carmen's mind returned to Victoria's visit and the upcoming reading. What had her sister meant about the gas station's finances? Roberto had owned Estrella gas station for as long as Carmen could remember. It was a small operation on the edge of town, with just 2 pumps and a tiny convenience store attached. In recent years, business had slowed as bigger chains opened nearby, but her father had always seemed to make ends meet. Had he really been struggling so much that Marcus and Victoria had been helping him financially? And if so, why hadn't he ever mentioned it to Carmen? The thought that her father might have been suffering silently, too proud to admit his difficulties, broke her heart. After dinner, Carmen changed back into her waitress uniform and called Mrs. Patel from the apartment upstairs, who watched the twins when Carmen worked evenings. Another expense she could barely afford. "I shouldn't be later than 11, Carmen told the older woman as she prepared to leave. "The girls have homework to finish, and then bed by 9:30, please." "Don't worry," Mrs. Patel assured her. "We will be fine." The evening shift at Mel's was busy, a small blessing that kept Carmen too occupied to dwell on the day's events. Still, as she carried plates and wiped tables, her mind kept returning to tomorrow's will reading. What would her father have left behind? Certainly not much of material value, if Victoria was to be believed. The memories came unbidden as she worked. Her father taught her to change a tire when she was 10. His patient voice guided her through math homework. The pride in his eyes when she won the art competition in high school. His quiet support when she told him she was pregnant at 22, and Derek had proposed. Even after the divorce, when her siblings made their disappointment abundantly clear, Roberto had never wavered. "Life is not a straight road, mija," he would say. Sometimes the most beautiful views come after the hardest climbs. By the time Carmen returned home, paid Mrs. Patel, and checked on her sleeping daughters, it was nearly midnight. She should sleep. Tomorrow would be another long day. But instead, she found herself pulling out the old photo album her father had given her last Christmas. "So you remember where you come from?" he had said, his English still heavily accented even after 40 years in America. The album was filled with photos of Roberto as a young man, newly arrived from El Salvador with nothing but determination and a dream. There he was outside the gas station the day he bought it, his smile wide and proud. Carmen as a toddler, sitting on his shoulders. Family picnics, birthdays, graduations. Roberto had documented it all, creating a visual history of their family's journey. The last photo in the album was recent, Roberto with the twins at their 12th birthday party. His health had already been failing, though he'd hidden it well. Now, looking at the picture, Carmen could see the fatigue in his eyes, the slight strain in his smile. Carmen closed the album, wiping away tears. Tomorrow she would face her siblings, her ex-husband, and the reality of her father's estate. But tonight, she allowed herself to simply grieve the man who had been her constant support. "I miss you, Poppy," she whispered into the quiet apartment. The next day dawned gray and drizzly, matching Carmen's mood as she prepared for the will reading. She had called in sick for her morning shift. Her manager had been understanding but firm. One more absence this month would put her job at risk. After seeing the twins off to school with extra tight hugs, Carmen stood before her closet, considering her options. She didn't own many formal outfits. Finally, she settled on a simple black dress she'd worn to a wedding last year, paired with her only decent pair of heels. As she applied minimal makeup, Carmen's phone rang. It was Derek again. "I've been thinking about Luna's situation at school," he began without greeting. "Stephanie and I were talking, and we think it might be best if the girls spent more time with us. My neighborhood has better schools." "Not now, Derek," Carmen interrupted. "I'm on my way to my father's will reading." There was a pause. "Right, I forgot that it was today. Any idea what he left you?" The question was too casual, too pointed. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. He owned that gas station free and clear, right? That's a valuable piece of commercial real estate." "So that was it." Derek was fishing for information about potential assets. Even after 3 years, his opportunism could still surprise her. "I have to go," she said. She ended the call and finished getting ready, a new worry adding itself to her growing collection. If Derek thought she might be coming into money, he would certainly use it to argue for reduced child support, or worse, push for custody changes. The attorney's office was downtown, in one of the glass and steel buildings that made up the city's modest skyline. Carmen parked her aging sedan in the public garage 2 blocks away, not wanting to pull up beside Marcus's Tesla or Victoria's Range Rover. As she walked, clutching her father's photo album to her chest like a shield, Carmen rehearsed what she would say to her siblings. The receptionist directed her to the 3rd floor, where Michael Reeves, her father's attorney, had his practice. When Carmen stepped off the elevator, she immediately spotted her family in the waiting area. No one noticed Carmen's arrival at first, giving her a moment to observe them. They looked like what they were: successful, polished professionals with expensive tastes and busy schedules. Marcus had inherited their father's height and broad shoulders, but none of his warmth. Victoria had their mother's delicate features, set in a perpetually judgmental expression. It was Marcus who spotted her first. "Finally," he said, checking his watch. Victoria looked up, her eyes cataloging Carmen's outfit in a fraction of a second, the slight tightening of her lips indicating her assessment. "Carmen, you look rested." Before Carmen could respond, a door opened, and Michael Reeves appeared. He was in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He had been Roberto's friend as well as his attorney. "Carmen," he said warmly, stepping forward to embrace her. "It's good to see you." The simple kindness nearly broke through Carmen's carefully constructed composure. She returned the hug briefly before stepping back. "Thank you for arranging this, Michael." Reeves nodded, then turned to the others. "If you'll all follow me, we're ready to begin." The conference room was wood-paneled and formal, with a long table surrounded by leather chairs. Reeves took his place at the head, gesturing for everyone to sit. Carmen chose a seat on the opposite end from her siblings. "Thank you all for coming," Reeves began, his tone shifting to professional formality. "We're here today to discuss the last will and testament of Roberto Enrique Rodriguez." He opened a folder and removed several documents. "I'll try to keep the legal language to a minimum. Essentially, Roberto's will is straightforward. He had few assets, but what he had, he distributed with clear intent." Marcus leaned forward. "We've been reviewing his finances, Michael. Victoria and I are prepared to handle any outstanding debts." Reeves glanced at him. "That's generous but not necessary." Roberto's affairs were in order. He shuffled the papers. "I'll begin with the smaller bequests. To Marcus Rodriguez, Roberto leaves his collection of vintage automobile manuals and the sum of $50,000. Marcus blinked, clearly surprised. $50,000? Where would Dad get that kind of money? Life insurance, Reeves explained. He maintained a modest policy. To Victoria Rodriguez, he leaves his collection of vinyl records and the sum of $50,000. Victoria exchanged a look with her husband. The records are worthless sentimentality, but the money is unexpected. Carmen sat quietly, wondering what her father might have left her. The photo album, perhaps. Some small keepsake? She had never expected money or valuables. Reeves cleared his throat. Now to the primary bequest. To Carmen Rodriguez, Roberto leaves Estrella gas station and all its contents, including the attached apartment, all inventory, equipment, and any other assets associated with the property. There was a moment of stunned silence, broken by Marcus's incredulous laugh. The gas station? Victoria's expression darkened. That property is prime real estate, Michael. It's worth far more than the cash bequests to Marcus and me. This is completely imbalanced. Reeves remained calm. Roberto was very clear about his wishes. The gas station goes to Carmen, along with everything inside it. Carmen sat frozen, unable to process what she was hearing. The gas station? Her father had left her his business, his livelihood, his home for the past 40 years. This is absurd, Marcus continued, his voice rising. Carmen knows nothing about running a business. She can barely manage her own finances. Dad must have been confused when he made this will. I assure you he was of sound mind, Reeves replied firmly. The will was updated just 8 months ago, well before his health began to decline. Victoria turned to Carmen, her expression a mixture of disbelief and irritation. What did you say to him? How did you convince him to do this? Carmen found her voice at last. I didn't say anything. I had no idea. Right, Marcus interrupted sarcastically. You had no idea he was leaving you a piece of commercial property worth hundreds of thousands. Reeves raised a hand. If I may continue, there is a letter from Roberto that he asked me to read. My dear children, if you are hearing these words, then I have passed on to whatever comes next. I hope it is somewhere with good fishing and better coffee. Despite everything, Carmen smiled. That sounded exactly like her father. I know my decision regarding Estrella gas station may come as a surprise to some of you. Marcus, Victoria, you have both built successful lives and careers. You have wealth, status, and security. You don't need a struggling gas station to add to your portfolios. Carmen has faced challenges, a difficult divorce, raising 2 wonderful granddaughters on her own, working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Despite these hardships, she has never lost her kindness, her generosity, or her spirit. The gas station may not seem like much to you. Perhaps you see it as a burden, a failing business in an outdated building. But to me, it represented freedom, opportunity, and the American dream I chased when I came to this country with nothing. It is my legacy, and I choose to entrust it to the child who I believe will honor its significance. Carmen, Mihija, I know this responsibility may seem overwhelming, but I have faith in you. Estrella has more to offer than meets the eye. Take your time, explore its possibilities, and remember that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in plain sight. Marcus and Victoria, I leave you with this thought. True wealth is not measured in dollars or property, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. I am proud of your accomplishments, but I hope you will one day understand that success without compassion is a hollow achievement. With all my love, your father, Roberto Rodriguez. When Reeves finished reading, the room fell silent. Carmen felt tears streaming down her cheeks, her father's words wrapping around her like an embrace. Marcus broke the silence, his voice tight with anger. This is ridiculous. Dad was clearly not thinking straight. The gas station is a failing business that hasn't turned a profit in years. That's not entirely accurate, Reeves said mildly. While revenues have declined, the business remains solvent, and the property itself has considerable value, as you noted. Victoria leaned forward. Carmen, be reasonable. You can't possibly want to run a gas station. If you sell it to us, you could use the money to get a better apartment, maybe even a small house for you and the girls. Carmen looked down at the photo album, at her father's proud face the day he purchased Estrella. This was his dream, his life's work. Could she really just sell it off? I need time to think, she said finally. Marcus made a dismissive sound. What's there to think about? That's enough, Marcus, Reeves interjected. Roberto's wishes were clear. The property belongs to Carmen now, and what she chooses to do with it is her decision alone. As the meeting concluded, Carmen remained seated, still processing everything while her siblings gathered their belongings. Victoria approached her, lowering her voice. Think about what's best for your daughters, Carmen. That place is a money pit. Marcus and I will give you $25,000 for it. Carmen looked up at her sister. $25,000? For prime commercial real estate? Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. We're trying to help you, Carmen, to spare you the headache of dealing with a failing business. I'll think about it, Carmen replied. After everyone had departed, only Carmen and Michael Reeves remained in the conference room. The attorney watched her with sympathetic eyes. Your father loved you very much, Carmen. Carmen nodded, still overwhelmed. The gas station. It needs work. A lot of work. Yes, Reeves agreed. He was very specific about you receiving all contents of the property. He emphasized that several times when we drafted the will. Carmen looked up, curious. What did he mean by that? Reeves smiled. I'm not entirely sure, but knowing Roberto, I suspect there's more to Estrella than meets the eye. He reached into his briefcase and removed a small envelope. He also asked me to give you this privately. Carmen accepted the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a single key, old-fashioned, heavy and brass, along with a note. Some doors are hidden in plain sight. Look with your heart, not just your eyes. Te quiero, papi. Carmen stared at the cryptic message, a mixture of confusion and curiosity replacing her earlier shock. What doors? What was her father trying to tell her? Michael, she said slowly, did my father ever mention anything unusual about the gas station? The attorney considered this. Not unusual exactly, but he was very particular about maintaining ownership. He always said Estrella was more than just a business to him. He paused. Carmen, whatever you decide to do with the property, don't rush into anything. Carmen tucked the key and note into her purse. I'm not selling, she said, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. At least, not yet. I owe it to my father to understand why this place was so important to him. The key from her father's envelope weighed heavily in Carmen's pocket as she pulled into Estrella gas station's cracked concrete lot. It had been 2 days since the will reading, 2 days of fielding increasingly aggressive calls from Marcus and Victoria, who had raised their offer to $50,000 to put her out of her misery, as Marcus had so delicately phrased it. But Carmen had remained firm. She needed to understand why her father had left her the station, what he had meant by his cryptic note about hidden doors. And so here she was, early on a Saturday morning, her daughters waiting in the car as she approached the place that was now, improbably, hers. Estrella gas station had seen better days. The once bright yellow star on its sign had faded to a jaundiced shade, and only one of the 2 pumps appeared functional. The small convenience store attached to the station had windows covered in outdated advertisements, and the whole property had an air of tired resignation. Yet as Carmen stood there, memories flooded back. Sitting on the counter as a child while her father worked the register, learning to stock shelves as a teenager, bringing the twins here when they were small, watching them run circles around the aisles while Roberto slipped them candy bars when he thought Carmen wasn't looking. Mom, are we going in? Mia called from the car. Carmen nodded, gesturing for the girls to join her. Yes, come on. The twins approached cautiously, eyeing the building with undisguised skepticism. This is ours now? Luna asked, kicking at a weed growing through a crack in the concrete. Why would Abuelo give us a broken gas station? It's not broken, Carmen corrected gently. It just needs some love. She unlocked the front door, the familiar bell jingling overhead as they entered. The interior was dim, with dust motes dancing in the beams of sunlight that managed to penetrate the grime-covered windows. The shelves were sparsely stocked with basic essentials, canned goods, snacks, a few automotive supplies. The refrigerated section hummed loudly, containing a meager selection of drinks and dairy products. It smells like Abuelo, Mia said suddenly, her voice soft with memory. Carmen nodded, tears threatening as she inhaled the distinctive scent. Her father had spent most of his waking hours in this small space, building his modest business. Let's check out the apartment upstairs, she suggested, moving toward the back of the store where a door marked private led to a staircase. The apartment above the gas station was small but surprisingly well maintained. A combined living and dining area, a compact kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom. The furniture was old but clean, a hand-carved chest set on the coffee table, bookshelves lined with volumes in both English and Spanish, framed photos of the family in younger, happier days. It's tiny, Luna observed, peering into one of the bedrooms. Where would we all sleep? Carmen hesitated. She hadn't actually considered moving in. Their current apartment was cramped, yes, but it was close to the girls' school, to her job at the diner. Yet as she looked around the space, she felt a connection to her father that had been missing these past weeks. We could make it work, she said slowly. This could be your room. I could take the smaller bedroom. What about the gas station part? Mia asked practically. Would you run it? That was the question, wasn't it? Could she run a business? Should she even try? I don't know yet, Carmen admitted. First, I want to understand exactly what we've inherited. They returned downstairs to the store area. Carmen moved behind the counter, taking in the ancient cash register, the cigarette display, the lottery ticket machine. Everything looked exactly as it had when Roberto was alive. "What's through there?" Luna asked, pointing to another door behind the counter. "That's the office," Carmen replied. The office was small, with just enough room for a desk, a filing cabinet, and a small safe in the corner. Papers were stacked neatly on the desk, and a calendar on the wall still showed the month Roberto had passed away, as if time had stopped. Carmen sat in her father's chair, running her hands over the worn desktop. What had he been trying to tell her with that key and cryptic note? She opened drawers, finding ordinary office supplies, invoices, tax documents. "Mom, look at this," Mia said, examining the bookshelf against the wall. "These aren't all in Spanish or English." Carmen joined her daughter, inspecting the volumes. Mia was right. There were books in what appeared to be Russian, German, Arabic, Chinese, and several other languages she couldn't immediately identify. "I didn't know Abuelo spoke all these languages," Luna commented. Neither did Carmen. Her father had spoken Spanish and English, of course, but she'd never heard him speak any other languages. The discovery unsettled her. What else might she not have known about her father? Opening the top drawer of the filing cabinet, Carmen found neatly labeled folders, invoices, receipts, insurance, all the expected categories for a small business. But at the back of the drawer was another folder labeled simply Correspondencia, correspondence. Inside were letters and postcards from all over the world, written in various languages. Some had her father's name on them, while others were addressed to names she didn't recognize. "This is weird," she murmured, setting the folder aside to examine more thoroughly later. The bottom drawer of the cabinet was locked. Carmen tried her office key, but it didn't fit. On a hunch, she removed the brass key from her pocket, the one her father had left her in the envelope. It slid into the lock and turned smoothly. Inside the drawer were several items that made little sense in the context of a gas station. A shortwave radio, a set of what appeared to be encryption keys on a laminated card, several passports in different names but all with photos resembling her father at various ages, and a leather-bound journal written in a code or cipher she couldn't decipher. "What is all this stuff?" Luna asked. "I'm not sure, but I think there was more to your abuelo than we knew." Also in the drawer was a small leather pouch. Carmen opened it to find foreign currency, euros, pounds, yen, and several other denominations. Quickly calculating in her head, she estimated there was the equivalent of several $1,000s. Why would Abuelo have all this money in different currencies? Mia asked. "I don't know," Carmen replied. "Maybe he was planning a trip, but that didn't explain the multiple passports or the coded journal. Something larger was at play here." The safe in the corner caught her attention next. It was old, with a dial combination lock rather than a digital keypad. Carmen knelt before it, wondering what combination her father might have used. She tried his birthday, then hers, then the date he had purchased the gas station. None worked. "Try the twins' birthday," Mia suggested. Carmen rotated the dial 12, 24, 10 and felt a satisfying click. Inside were several USB drives, a small handgun and a stack of photographs. The photos showed her father with various people, many in what appeared to be military or official settings. In one, Roberto stood beside a man in uniform with decorations that suggested high rank. In another, he was shaking hands with someone who looked remarkably like a younger version of the current CIA director, though that seemed impossible. "Mom, who are these people with Abuelo?" Luna asked. "I don't know," Carmen admitted. "I don't know any of them. What had her father been involved in?" The evidence before her suggested something far beyond the life of a simple gas station owner. But before Carmen could process these discoveries further, the bell over the store's front door jingled. Setting down the photos, she quickly closed the safe and drawer, tucking the key back into her pocket. "Hello?" she called, stepping out of the office with the twins behind her. "We're not actually open yet." She stopped short at the sight of her brother Marcus standing in the store, his expression a mixture of impatience and disdain. Beside him was a middle-aged man in an expensive suit, carrying a leather portfolio. "There you are," Marcus said, as if they had been looking for her for hours instead of walking in unannounced. "I've been calling you all morning." Carmen glanced at her phone, which she had silenced while exploring. "I was busy," she replied. "What do you want?" Marcus gestured to his companion. "This is Howard Blackwell, a developer friend of mine. He's interested in the property." Howard stepped forward, hand extended. "Ms. Rodriguez, pleasure to meet you." Carmen didn't take his hand. "Yes, and I'm not interested in selling." Marcus made an exasperated sound. "Carmen, don't be difficult. Howard is prepared to offer $200,000 for the property." $200,000. The figure made Carmen pause. That would solve so many problems: a down payment on a house, college funds for the girls, freedom from the constant financial stress. But the items in that drawer, in the safe, what was her father trying to tell her? "I need time to consider my options," she said finally. Howard smiled, a practiced expression. Of course, taking over a business is a big responsibility. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. Carmen, be realistic. You're a waitress. You know nothing about running a gas station. Dad left you a burden, not a gift. Girls, Carmen said, maintaining eye contact with her brother, why don't you go upstairs and check out the bookshelves more thoroughly? Once the twins had disappeared up the stairs, Carmen turned to Marcus and Howard. Let me be very clear. I am not selling today. Not to you, not to any developer. My father left me this station for a reason, and I intend to honor his wishes by at least understanding what I have before making any decisions. Howard looked to Marcus, clearly uncomfortable with the tension. Perhaps we should reschedule this discussion when Ms. Rodriguez has had more time to adjust to her new circumstances. Fine, Marcus snapped. But Carmen, don't let sentimentality cloud your judgment. This place is a money pit. It needs new pumps, updated tanks, and a complete renovation to be competitive. I'll figure it out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a lot to do here. She returned to the office, reopening the locked drawer to examine its contents more carefully. The coded journal seemed the most promising place to start. She flipped through pages of what appeared to be meticulously recorded notes, dates, and names, all written in a system she couldn't decipher. Mom? Mia called from the doorway. There's someone else here. Carmen quickly closed the drawer again and followed Mia out to the store area. A woman in her mid-50s, her appearance unremarkable except for her exceptionally good posture and alert eyes. Good morning, Carmen greeted her. I'm afraid we're not officially open yet. The woman turned, her gaze sharp and assessing. You must be Roberto's daughter. Something in her tone made Carmen pay closer attention. You knew my father well? I was a regular customer, the woman replied. Carmen noticed the slight accent in Elena's speech. Eastern European, perhaps Russian. She recalled the books in Cyrillic on her father's shelf. I'm sorry, but Carmen said, we're still sorting things out. Elena nodded. Of course. It must be a big adjustment. Roberto was a special man. Irreplaceable, really. She seemed about to say more, but then glanced at the twins and changed direction. Will you be continuing the business then? I'm not sure yet, Carmen admitted. Indeed. Elena reached into her purse, then froze, a flicker of alarm crossing her features as something fell to the floor between them. Carmen bent to pick it up, a passport. Not an American passport, but one with Cyrillic lettering. A diplomatic passport. I'll get that, Elena said quickly, but Carmen had already retrieved it. You're a diplomat? Carmen asked. Just a minor consular official. Nothing interesting. She reached into her wallet and removed 5 $100 bills. Perhaps we could forget this little incident. I'm not supposed to be shopping while on duty. That's not necessary, Carmen said, pushing the money away. Your secret is safe with us. You are very much like your father. He understood discretion. She tucked the money away but handed Carmen a business card instead. If you decide to continue the business, call me. I'd be happy to be your first official customer. After Elena left, Carmen examined the card. It listed only a name and phone number, no title or organization. That was weird, Luna commented. Carmen shook her head. I don't know, but I think it's connected to whatever your abuelo was involved in. Over the next week, Carmen split her time between her shifts at the diner and exploring Estrella. She couldn't afford to quit her job yet, but she had begun to clean up the store, taking inventory, familiarizing herself with the operations. The girls helped after school, initially reluctant but gradually warming to the project as they discovered more of their grandfather's belongings. The strange customers continued to appear. About a dozen regulars who came at predictable times, purchased minimal items and often engaged in brief, hushed conversations in various languages. Carmen began to document these interactions in a notebook, recording descriptions, languages spoken, and any unusual behavior. One particular customer, a tall man with a military bearing who came every Tuesday at exactly 10:15 a.m., had actually seemed alarmed when Carmen couldn't respond to his German greeting. Roberto did not teach you, he had asked, genuinely surprised. That is, unexpected. Carmen's exploration was interrupted by 2 unwelcome developments. First, Victoria appeared with a lawyer. We have testimony from his doctor about his declining cognitive function. Victoria explained, her voice dripping with false concern. We don't want to make this difficult, Carmen, but legally, the will may not be valid if he wasn't of sound mind. Carmen had shown them the door, then immediately called Michael Reeves, who assured her the will was ironclad. Your father underwent a complete cognitive assessment just before updating his will, he explained. The second complication came from Derek, who filed an emergency motion regarding custody. His filing specifically mentioned Carmen's erratic behavior in taking on a failing business and her potential relocation to the apartment above the gas station, claiming these changes created an unstable environment for the twins. When Carmen confronted him by phone, his true motivation became clear. "I heard about the developer's offer," he said. "200,000 would solve a lot of problems, Carmen, including my concerns about the girl's living situation. Think about it." So Derek was now working with Marcus and Victoria, all of them pressuring her to sell. But then another unexpected ally appeared. Elena Vasov returned to the gas station. "Your father's files," Elena said without preamble. "Have you examined them thoroughly?" Carmen hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "Some of them," Elena nodded. "The journal in the bottom drawer. Have you deciphered it yet?" Carmen froze. How did this woman know about the locked drawer, about the coded journal? Elena smiled at her reaction. "Roberto and I were colleagues. In a manner of speaking, the code is a simple substitution cipher. The key is the date of your birth. Who are you?" Carmen asked directly. "A friend," Elena replied. "One who knows the value of what you've inherited goes far beyond the property itself. You've noticed the regulars, yes? The ones who barely buy anything but come religiously?" Carmen nodded slowly. "We come for something more valuable," Elena continued. "This location, it serves a special purpose. One your father maintained for nearly 30 years. "What purpose?" Carmen asked, though she was beginning to form her own suspicions, as wild as they seemed. Elena met her gaze directly. "I think you already suspect the truth. Roberto was not just a gas station owner. Was he a spy? Not exactly, but he worked with people like me. People who need secure locations, discreet meeting points, and reliable intermediaries." Elena paused. "There's more to discover. The apartment isn't the only space above the store. And below, well, that's where the real value lies." Before Carmen could press for more details, Elena's phone buzzed. She checked it, her expression changing to one of alert focus. "I have to go. But Carmen, be careful. Your father had enemies as well as friends. The fact that you're asking questions, exploring the files, it's been noticed." "Noticed by whom?" Carmen demanded. "Both sides," Elena replied cryptically. "Those who valued your father's work and those who opposed it." She headed for the door, then turned back. "The key he left you, it doesn't just open the drawer." That night, after closing up the station, Carmen brought the coded journal home to her apartment. Using her birth date as the key, she began to decipher the entries. What emerged was astonishing. Detailed records of meetings, information exchanges, people moving through the gas station over decades. The journal entries were careful never to explicitly state the nature of the operation, but Carmen could read between the lines. Her father, her simple, hard-working immigrant father, had been running some kind of intelligence operation from his humble gas station. The next day, Carmen received 3 more visits that confirmed her growing suspicions. First, a health inspector arrived, citing anonymous complaints about code violations. He seemed determined to find problems, scrutinizing every corner of the store until he finally issued citations for minor issues that Carmen suspected had never bothered him during her father's tenure. Next came a notification that the scheduled gasoline delivery had been canceled due to payment issues, despite the account being in good standing according to the records Carmen had reviewed. Finally, she arrived one morning to find graffiti spray-painted across the front of the store, crude symbols and the word "leave," but Carmen Rodriguez was her father's daughter. And if Roberto had taught her anything, it was that sometimes you had to stand your ground, especially when others tried to push you aside. That evening, after sending the twins to stay with Mrs. Patel, Carmen returned to the gas station alone. Elena's words echoed in her mind. "The key he left you, it doesn't just open the drawer. What else might it open?" Carmen moved methodically through the store and apartment, trying the key in every lock she could find. None worked. In the office, she examined the walls carefully, looking for any irregularities. Behind the filing cabinet, she noticed a slight discoloration in the paneling. Pushing the heavy cabinet aside, she revealed what appeared to be a seam in the wall. Carmen pressed against various points until she heard a faint click. A small section of the panel slid aside, revealing a keyhole. With trembling hands, she inserted her father's brass key. The wall seemed to shudder, then silently swung inward, revealing a hidden passage behind the office. Carmen grabbed a flashlight and stepped through. She found herself in a narrow corridor that led to a small room containing what appeared to be a service elevator. Old, but well-maintained. Beside it was a numeric keypad. Carmen thought about possible codes. Following Elena's advice about the journal, she tried her birth date again. 5/12/82. The keypad flashes red. What other date would be significant to her father? She tried his own birthday, the twins' birthday, the date he purchased the gas station. None worked. Then she remembered the numbers on the safe. 12, 24, 10. She had assumed it was the twins' birthday, December 24, 2010. But what if it was something else? A date in European format, perhaps? She tried 12/24/10 on the keypad. The The light flashed green, and the elevator doors slid open. Carmen stepped inside. There were only 3 buttons: G for ground, B for basement, and another marked simply with the number 3. She pressed B first. The elevator descended smoothly, the sensation suggesting it was traveling farther than just 1 floor. When the doors opened, Carmen found herself in a space that defied all her expectations. Before her was a fully equipped communication center, computer workstations, satellite equipment, radio systems, and walls of filing cabinets. One wall was covered with maps marked with pins and notations. Another displayed photographs, some of her father with various officials, others of people she didn't recognize. In the center of the room was a large table with what appeared to be secure phone lines. Carmen moved to one of the computer workstations and pressed the power button. To her surprise, it hummed to life, requesting a password. Again, she tried her birth date, and again, she was denied access. A framed photograph on the desk caught her attention, her father standing before Estrella gas station on its opening day. The date printed below the image, 8/15/78. She tried those numbers, and the computer unlocked. The screen filled with files, documents, and what appeared to be a database of names and locations. But most striking was a video file on the desktop labeled, "For Carmen." She clicked on it. Her father's face appeared on the screen, recorded sometime before his death. He looked tired but determined. "Carmen, mihija," he began. "If you are watching this, then you have found the key, both literally and figuratively. You have discovered the truth about Estrella, about my real work all these years." He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "What I am about to tell you will sound unbelievable, but every word is true, and now that I am gone, you need to know everything." Roberto leaned closer to the camera. "Estrella Gas Station is not just a business. It is a CIA safe house and communication center, established in 1978 when I first came to this country. I was not just an immigrant, I was an intelligence asset, recruited for my language skills and connections to help America during a critical time in the Cold War." Carmen gasped, though she had already begun to suspect something along these lines. Hearing it confirmed by her father himself was still shocking. "Over the years," Roberto continued, "Estrella has served as a meeting point for intelligence operatives, a communication hub, and a safe location for debriefing defectors and assets from around the world. Those regular customers you have surely noticed by now are active and retired intelligence personnel who still use the station as a secure meeting point. I speak 9 languages, Carmen. I was a code specialist in El Salvador before coming here. The United States government gave me this opportunity to serve my adopted country while building a life for my family. The gas station business was real, but secondary to my primary mission." Carmen sat back, trying to process this revelation. Her father, the quiet, humble man who had taught her to change a tire and helped her with homework, had been a CIA operative all along. "Now, about your inheritance," Roberto continued. "The gas station property itself is valuable, yes, but the real inheritance is much larger. Over my 30 years of service, I was well compensated, though I kept this hidden from everyone, even your mother. There is approximately $50 million in offshore accounts, accessible through the files on this computer. Additionally, I acquired properties, safe houses, in 12 different countries, worth approximately $75 million. There is also a collection of gold and artifacts, gifts from grateful governments, stored in a secure location worth around $40 million. Finally, the CIA established a trust fund for my outstanding service containing $35 million. Carmen felt the room spin around her. $200 million. Her father had been worth $200 million, all while living modestly above a gas station, driving an old truck, wearing the same jacket for 20 years. "Why didn't you tell us?" she whispered to the screen. Roberto continued, "You may wonder why I lived so simply, why I never told you about this wealth. The answer is twofold: security and values. My work required absolute discretion. Living lavishly would have drawn attention, but more importantly, I wanted you and your siblings to develop character, to understand the value of hard work and service to others." His expression grew sad. Marcus and Victoria chose different paths. They pursued wealth and status above all else. You, Carmen, despite your struggles, or perhaps because of them, developed the qualities I value most: compassion, resilience, integrity. That is why I've left Estrella and everything associated with it to you. You will use this inheritance wisely, for good purposes, not just for comfort or status. He leaned back, his expression solemn. "There is one more thing you should know. Elena Vasov is your CIA handler now. She has been watching over you since my diagnosis, protecting you without your knowledge. Trust her. She will help you understand everything and guide you through the transition. I am sorry for the secrets, Mihija. I hope you can forgive me." Know that everything I did was to protect you and to serve a purpose greater than myself. I am so proud of the woman you have become, the mother you are to my beautiful granddaughters. You are stronger than you know, smarter than you believe. You are my greatest achievement." The screen went dark, and Carmen sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. Everything made sense now: the strange customers, the multiple languages, Elena's cryptic comments, her siblings' pressure to sell the property quickly. Carmen wiped her tears and stood, a new determination filling her. But as she prepared to return upstairs, to begin processing everything she had learned, a notification on the computer caught her attention. The security system, which had been running in the background, flashed a warning: "Perimeter breach, north entrance." The security alert flashed again: "Perimeter breach, north entrance." Carmen's heart raced as she frantically searched the control panel for some way to see what was happening upstairs. On the wall, she spotted a bank of monitors, currently dark. She pressed what appeared to be a power button, and the screens flickered, showing different areas of the gas station from security cameras she hadn't even known existed. On one screen, she could see two men in dark clothing attempting to force the back door. They wore masks and moved with the precision of professionals. Carmen reached for her phone to call the police, then hesitated. If her father had kept this place secret for decades, bringing local law enforcement into it might compromise operations still in progress. And how would she explain the underground facility? Her phone rang. The screen displayed Elena's number. "Do not call the police," Elena said immediately when Carmen answered. "Security has been alerted. Stay where you are. There are men breaking in upstairs," Carmen whispered. "I know. They're not after the gas station. They're after the information in the basement." Elena's voice was calm but urgent. "Is the elevator secure?" "Yes, I think so." "Good. The elevator and the passage are designed to be undetectable. Stay quiet. Stay hidden. Help is 4 minutes out." Carmen watched the monitors as the men finally breached the back door. They moved efficiently through the store, clearly searching for something. One headed straight for the office. "They're in the office," Carmen whispered into the phone. "They'll find the passage." "No, they won't," Elena assured her. "Not without the key." "Do you have it with you?" Carmen patted her pocket, relieved to feel the brass key still there. "Yes." "Then we're fine. The passage resealed itself when you entered the elevator." On the monitor, Carmen watched as the man in the office ran his hands along the wall where the hidden door was located. He seemed frustrated, checking his watch and speaking into what appeared to be a communication device. "Who are they?" Carmen asked. "Former associates of your father's targets," Elena replied cryptically. "People who would prefer certain information remain buried." The man in the office was now pulling books from the shelves, searching more frantically. His partner entered, and they appeared to argue briefly before both headed back toward the store's front. "They're leaving," Carmen reported, watching as the men exited through the front door this time. "Stay where you are," Elena instructed. "Our team is almost there. They'll secure the location and then escort you safely home. My daughters are fine. We have someone watching your apartment building." The casual way Elena mentioned surveillance of her home should have been disturbing, but Carmen found it oddly reassuring. "How long have you been watching us?" she asked. "Since Roberto's diagnosis," Elena admitted. "He was concerned that once he was gone, certain interests might see you and the girls as either loose ends or leverage. He asked us to keep an eye on you." Within minutes, Carmen saw new figures on the security monitors, 3 men and a woman, moving with the same professional precision as the intruders but clearly performing a security sweep rather than a search. One spoke into a communication device, and shortly after, the elevator began to ascend. When the doors opened, Carmen found herself face to face with a tall, distinguished-looking man in his 60s, with salt and pepper hair and alert eyes. He wasn't what she had expected from a CIA operative, looking more like a college professor than a spy. "Ms. Rodriguez," he said, extending his hand. "I'm James Harrington. I worked with your father for 30 years. Carmen shook his hand. "Those men, who were they? What did they want?" Harrington sighed. "Let's get you somewhere secure first, then we'll explain everything." "What about my car?" Carmen asked. "One of our people will drive it back to your apartment," Harrington assured her. "For now, you'll ride with me." "My father, was he really worth $200 million? Harrington nodded. "Roberto was one of our most valuable assets. His cover as a humble immigrant running a gas station was perfect. No one looked twice at him. But he was instrumental in dozens of critical operations over 3 decades. The compensation reflected his value to national security. And no one in my family knew? Not even my mother?" "Your mother knew some of it," Harrington admitted. "Not the extent of his wealth, but she understood his real work. After she passed, Roberto became even more committed to his cover identity." They arrived at what appeared to be an ordinary office building on the outskirts of town. Inside, however, was a secure facility with communications equipment similar to what Carmen had seen beneath the gas station. Elena was waiting for them, now dressed in professional attire that suggested her role was more official than she had previously indicated. "Carmen," she greeted, "I owe you an apology for the half-truths. Security protocols required discretion until we could confirm you had accessed your father's video." "Who were those men?" Carmen repeated. "They work for an organization that your father helped dismantle in the early 2000s, a network involved in weapons trafficking and intelligence sales. Several of their key members were identified and captured thanks to operations run through Estrella. They believe the station contains evidence that could implicate others who escaped prosecution," Elena added. "They're not wrong. Your father kept meticulous records." Carmen sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "And now they're after me because I inherited the station." "Yes and no," Harrington said carefully. "They were watching the station even before Roberto passed away. But your refusal to sell, and your obvious interest in exploring the property thoroughly, escalated their concerns. They need to know what you know, which is why we need to move quickly," Elena interjected. "The inheritance your father left you is legitimate and documented, but accessing it safely requires following specific protocols." She slid a tablet across the table to Carmen. On it was a document titled Succession Plan, Estrella Operations. "Your father prepared for this eventuality," Elena explained. "He created a detailed plan for transferring assets, securing information, and protecting you and the girls. But you have decisions to make about how involved you want to be going forward." Carmen looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Harrington leaned forward. "Estrella serves an ongoing function in our intelligence network. Ideally, we would maintain that function. But that depends on you. Roberto believed you could handle the truth, could even continue some aspects of his work. But he also provided alternatives if that's not what you want. We would relocate the operation," Elena said. "The property could be sold. It does have significant commercial value, as your siblings have pointed out. But the underground facility would be decommissioned and sealed first. And if I choose to stay involved?" Harrington smiled slightly. "Then you would receive training, support, and compensation, just as your father did. Estrella would continue its function, and you would become its new operator, maintaining the cover of the gas station while facilitating the more important work below." "I need time," she said finally. "I need to think about what's best for my daughters." "Of course," Elena nodded, "but we should move quickly on securing your assets. Those men tonight weren't the only ones interested in what Roberto left behind. Your siblings have also been making inquiries, hiring private investigators, consulting with financial forensic experts. What do you suggest I do first?" Carmen asked. Harrington opened a laptop. "We should secure the financial assets immediately. The accounts require biometric verification. Roberto set them up to transfer to you upon his death, but you need to complete the authentication process." For the next hour, Carmen followed their guidance, providing fingerprints, retinal scans, and voice recognition to secure access to her father's hidden fortune. With each step, the reality of her inheritance became more concrete. Account balances appeared on screen, tens of millions of dollars in various currencies, investments, and holdings. "All of this is really mine now?" she asked, staring at numbers that seemed unreal. "Yes," Elena confirmed. Though much of it is in structures designed to remain discreet, by the time they finished the initial security procedures, it was nearly dawn. Carmen felt exhausted but also strangely energized. "We should get you home," Harrington said. "Your daughters will be waking up soon." As they prepared to leave, Elena handed Carmen a secure phone. "Use this to contact us." "One more question," Carmen said. "My siblings and my ex-husband, how much danger have I put them in by not selling the station immediately?" Harrington's expression grew serious. "Your instincts are good, Carmen. Your father said they would be. There's something you should know about Marcus and Victoria. Their pressure for you to sell isn't just about the property value." "What do you mean?" Elena tapped on the tablet, bringing up documents and photographs. "Marcus has been involved in some questionable business dealings, including with the very network your father helped dismantle. He may not know the full extent of their operations, but he's been facilitating transfers of technology that have raised red flags." "And Victoria?" Carmen asked. "Real estate is excellent for money laundering," Harrington said grimly. "She's been helping several criminal organizations move funds through property transactions. Again, she may not know who she's really working for, but ignorance isn't a defense." Carmen felt sick. Her siblings had built their success on criminal connections, all while looking down on her modest, honest life. "Your father knew," Elena added softly. "It broke his heart. He was actually investigating them during his final months, compiling information for federal authorities. That's why he left everything to me," Carmen realized. "Not just because he trusted me, but because he knew Marcus and Victoria were compromised." Harrington nodded. "Roberto believed you were the only one who would use the inheritance ethically. and he hoped that by leaving everything to you, he might force Marcus and Victoria to face consequences before they went any deeper into criminal territory. What about Derek, my ex-husband? Elena hesitated. Your ex-husband's new wife, Stephanie. She has connections to a foreign intelligence service. We believe she targeted Derek specifically because of his connection to your family. The revelation hit Carmen like a physical blow. Stephanie, who called her daughter's baggage, was a foreign operative? Derek hadn't left Carmen for love but had been targeted as part of an intelligence operation. Does Derek know? She asked. We don't believe so, Harrington replied. So my whole family, none of us knew who my father really was, and all of us were being used or manipulated in some way. Your father protected you as best he could, Elena said gently. And now we're trying to do the same. But you need to be careful. The people who came tonight will try again, and your siblings may become desperate once they realize you've discovered the truth about the inheritance. When she arrived home, Mrs. Patel reported that the twins had slept peacefully. Carmen thanked her and sent her home. By the time Mia and Luna woke up, Carmen had made her decision. She would accept her father's legacy, all of it. She would protect his work and use the resources he had left her to secure a future for her daughters. But she would do it her way, with transparency and integrity. Mom, you're home early, Mia observed, finding Carmen at the table. Did something happen? Carmen smiled at her daughter. Yes, something happened. Something big. And I think it's time I tell you both the truth about your abuelo's gas station. As the girls listened, wide-eyed, to a carefully edited version of the truth, Carmen felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Her father had carried his secrets alone for decades. She wouldn't make the same choice. She would share what she could with those she trusted, creating a circle of support rather than isolation. So we're rich now? Luna asked when Carmen had finished explaining. We have resources, Carmen corrected gently, and we'll use them wisely, the way Abuelo would have wanted, not to show off or to stop working hard, but to create security and to help others. What about Uncle Marcus and Aunt Victoria? Mia asked. And Dad? Will you tell them too? Carmen hesitated. That's more complicated. There are things about your uncle and aunt that I'm still processing. And your father. Well, I need to be careful about how much I share with him right now. Because of Stephanie? Luna asked. Yes, partly because of Stephanie. I have reasons to believe she's not who she pretends to be. We could have told you that, Luna muttered. She's totally fake. Despite everything, Carmen laughed. Her daughters had seen through Stephanie's facade long before she had the intelligence reports to confirm it. So what happens now? Mia asked. Are we moving to the gas station apartment? I think we should, she said finally. At least for now. It needs some fixing up, but it would be a fresh start. And it would honor Abuelo's memory to keep Estrella in the family. The twins seemed surprisingly receptive to the idea. Could we paint our room? Luna asked. Absolutely, Carmen agreed. We'll make it our own. As they discussed colors and furniture arrangements, Carmen's secure phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Meeting at 2 p.m. Critical information about your siblings' activities. Car will pick you up. 2 weeks after discovering the truth about Estrella gas station, Carmen stood behind the counter, watching as the usual morning customers trickled in. Now that she knew who they really were, intelligence operatives, assets, foreign contacts, their behavior made perfect sense. The minimal purchases, the coded conversations, the multiple languages, all part of an elaborate but effective cover for the real business conducted through the station. Carmen had spent these weeks in intensive training with Elena and Harrington, learning the protocols and systems her father had managed for decades. She had also begun the process of renovating the station and apartment, using a small portion of her inheritance to update the facilities. The twins had adapted to their new home with surprising enthusiasm. The apartment above the station, once cleaned and personalized, had turned out to be more spacious than their previous rental. Luna and Mia had painted their room in bright colors and arranged their belongings with the care of children who finally felt settled. They attended the same school, with Carmen driving them each morning before opening the station. On the surface, they appeared to be a normal family running a modest business. Below the surface, Carmen was managing an international intelligence operation while navigating the legal complexities of her extraordinary inheritance. "Good morning, Ms. Rodriguez," said a distinguished-looking man in his 70s, placing a newspaper and coffee on the counter. Carmen recognized him now as a retired CIA station chief who still consulted on certain operations. "Good morning, Mr. Jenkins," she replied, ringing up his purchases. "The usual today?" He nodded, then lowered his voice. "Harrington mentioned there might be a package for me." Carmen reached beneath the counter for a sealed envelope that had been delivered the previous day through secure channels. "Just came in," she confirmed. This was how it worked. Ordinary transactions concealing extraordinary information transfers. Carmen had quickly learned the rhythm of it. the subtle signs and codes that distinguished regular customers from intelligence contacts. The bell over the door jingled, and Carmen looked up to see Marcus entering the store. "You're actually running this place?" he asked, his tone somewhere between incredulous and contemptuous. "Good morning to you too, Marcus," Carmen replied evenly. "Yes, the girls and I have moved in upstairs and I'm managing the station now." "This is ridiculous, Carmen. You're playing at being a businesswoman to spite us." "I'm honoring Dad's wishes," she corrected. "And so far, it's going well. What brings you here today?" Marcus approached the counter, lowering his voice. "Victoria and I have been patient, but this has gone on long enough. Our final offer is $300,000 for the property. That's far above market value, especially considering the back taxes Dad owed." "There are no back taxes," Carmen said calmly. "Dad's finances were in perfect order. I've reviewed everything with his accountant. That's not what our investigators found. The property has liens against it, Carmen. You're inheriting debt, not assets." "Your investigators are mistaken," Carmen replied, "but I appreciate your concern." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened again, and Elena entered, now dressed in her role as a regular customer. "Good morning," she said pleasantly, nodding to Carmen and giving Marcus an assessing look. "Am I interrupting?" "Not at all," Carmen assured her. "My brother was just leaving." Marcus glared at Elena, then turned back to Carmen. "This conversation isn't over. Victoria and I are meeting with another attorney tomorrow. Dad wasn't of sound mind when he made that will, and we can prove it." After he stormed out, Elena approached the counter. "Your brother seems upset. He and Victoria can't accept that Dad left them only $50,000 each while giving me the station," Carmen explained. "They're looking for ways to invalidate the will." "They won't succeed," Elena said confidently. "Roberto was thorough in establishing his competency, but their persistence is concerning for other reasons." She glanced around to ensure they were alone, then continued in a lower voice. "The FBI has been building cases against both of them based on the evidence your father compiled. Marcus's dealings with restricted technology exports and Victoria's real estate transactions with known criminal entities. They're close to making arrests, but wanted to be certain you were secure first." "When?" she asked simply. "Soon," Elena replied. "Possibly within the week. We wanted you to be prepared. Once they're arrested, there will be media attention, questions about your father, about the family business. We've prepared a cover story that protects the classified aspects while explaining the basics." Carmen nodded, a knot forming in her stomach. "And Derek? Stephanie? Counterintelligence has been monitoring Stephanie. They'll move on her separately, probably after your siblings' arrests, to avoid tipping her off." Elena's expression softened slightly. "Your ex-husband appears to be an unwitting participant, but he'll still face questioning." The conversation was interrupted by Carmen's secure phone buzzing with an alert. She checked it, feeling a chill run down her spine as she read the message. "The twins' school just called," she said, looking up at Elena with alarm. "Someone tried to pick them up. The school refused because she wasn't on the authorized list." Elena immediately switched to operational mode. "I'll have a team at the school in 5 minutes. Lock up here and wait for my call before doing anything." As Elena rushed out, Carmen quickly closed the station, her heart racing. Had Victoria tried to take the girls? Or was it Stephanie? Either way, the escalation to involving her children crossed a line that filled Carmen with both fear and fury. Within 20 minutes, Elena called to report that the girls were safe. A security team was escorting them home, and the school had been advised to enhance their verification procedures. The woman who had attempted to collect them had been identified as an associate of Stephanie's. By the time the twins arrived home with their security escort, Carmen had composed herself enough to appear calm. She didn't want to frighten them, but she needed them to understand the seriousness of the situation. "Someone tried to pick you up from school today without my permission," she explained as they sat at the kitchen table upstairs. "I need you both to be extra careful. Don't go with anyone, even someone you know, unless I've specifically told you it's okay." "Was it Stephanie?" Luna asked perceptively. "She texted Dad yesterday saying she wanted to take us shopping this weekend, but he said we were staying with you." This was news to Carmen. "Dad didn't mention that to me. He probably forgot," Mia said. "He's been acting weird lately, really stressed. He and Stephanie fight a lot." "Well, I'm glad the school followed the rules and called me. And from now on, one of my friends will be driving you to and from school just to be safe." "Because of Abuelo's secret work?" Luna asked, lowering her voice dramatically despite being in their own home. "Yes," Carmen confirmed. "Some people are interested in Abuelo's work, and they might try to use you to get to me. But I won't let that happen." That evening, after the twins were asleep, Carmen met with Harrington and Elena in the secure facility beneath the station. The discovery of the attempted school pickup had accelerated their timeline. "We need to move on your siblings now," Harrington said grimly. "The attempt to take the girls indicates desperation. They're escalating because they sense the net closing. I agree, Elena added. And there's something else. Our surveillance picked up a meeting between Marcus and one of the men who broke in here 2 weeks ago. They're collaborating now, which puts you in even greater danger. What exactly will happen? The FBI will arrest Marcus and Victoria simultaneously tomorrow morning, Harrington explained. The charges will be made public by afternoon. Simultaneously, a separate team will detain Stephanie for questioning regarding her intelligence activities. And the men who broke in? The ones working with Marcus now? We have a team tracking them, Elena assured her. Once your siblings are in custody, we'll move on their associates as well. Carmen nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Stay here with the girls, Harrington advised. We'll have security in place. Once the arrests are made, there will likely be media interest. We've prepared a statement for you, expressing shock at your siblings' activities, cooperating with authorities, that sort of thing. And what about Estrella, the underground facility? How do we explain that if reporters start digging? The official story is that your father was a confidential informant for federal law enforcement, Elena explained. It explains his hidden wealth as reward money for information leading to major cases, without revealing the CIA connection or the ongoing intelligence function of the station. Is there no other way? She asked quietly. Harrington's expression was sympathetic but firm. Your father struggled with the same question, Carmen. He delayed providing the evidence to authorities for months, hoping Marcus and Victoria would change course. But their activities were too serious to ignore. National security implications, connections to criminal organizations. Roberto ultimately chose to protect the country, even at the cost of his own children's freedom. I need to see the evidence, she said finally. Before tomorrow, I need to understand exactly what they've done. Elena hesitated, then nodded. We can arrange that. But Carmen, it won't make tomorrow any easier. Throughout the night, Carmen reviewed the files her father had compiled on his own children. The evidence was meticulous and damning. Marcus had knowingly facilitated the transfer of restricted technology to entities connected to foreign intelligence services, accepting millions in payments through offshore accounts. Victoria had helped launder over $100 million for drug cartels through her real estate business, taking a percentage of each transaction. By morning, Carmen had come to terms with what needed to happen. When Harrington called to confirm that the arrests were underway, she felt a strange calm. This was the culmination of her father's final mission, not just securing his legitimate assets for Carmen, but ensuring that justice would be served, even within his own family. The media explosion came faster than expected. By noon, local and national news outlets were reporting the arrests of prominent business leaders, Marcus and Victoria Rodriguez, on charges of technology export violations and money laundering. Their connections to international criminal organizations were highlighted, along with the shocking revelation that the investigation had been initiated by evidence from their own father. Carmen kept the twins home from school, knowing they would face uncomfortable questions and possibly hostility from classmates whose parents worked for Marcus or Victoria. Did Abuelo know what they were doing? Mia asked, her voice small as she watched footage of Victoria being escorted into the federal courthouse. Yes, Carmen admitted. He discovered it during his last year. Is that why he left everything to you instead of them? Luna wondered. Carmen nodded. He knew I would use the inheritance responsibly, and he wanted to protect the work he had done at Estrella. The most difficult call came from Derek that afternoon. He sounded shaken, desperate. Carmen, have you seen the news? They've arrested Stephanie. They're saying she's some kind of foreign agent, and they've been questioning me for hours about my connections to Marcus and Victoria. Are you under arrest? Carmen asked. No, they seem to believe I didn't know anything. But Carmen, this is insane. Your whole family, spies, criminals, what the hell is going on? She could hear the genuine confusion in his voice and felt a moment of sympathy. Derek was many things, selfish, opportunistic, a mediocre father, but he apparently wasn't a knowing participant in espionage or criminal activity. I can't discuss it over the phone, she said carefully. But Derek, the girls need stability right now. This is going to be all over the news, and they're going to hear things about their uncle, aunt, and Stephanie. I need you to be supportive and present, not adding to their stress. There was a pause before he responded, his voice uncharacteristically humble. You're right. Can I come see them? I need to see that they're okay. Carmen agreed to a visit the following day, with the stipulation that he come alone and keep the conversation positive. As the day progressed, reporters began gathering outside Estrella gas station, drawn by the connection to the sensational arrests. Carmen remained inside with the twins, grateful for the security team that kept the media at a distance. Elena managed the perimeter, occasionally briefing Carmen on developments. Victoria's lawyer is already floating the mentally incompetent father defense, she reported during one update, claiming Roberto was delusional about his children's activities due to his illness. It won't work. The evidence is too solid, but they'll try to drag his name through the mud. And Marcus? Carmen asked, attempting to cut a deal, offering information on his contacts in exchange for leniency. Typical Marcus, looking out for himself first. Throughout this storm, Carmen maintained the gas station's regular hours, serving the handful of genuine customers who braved the media presence and continuing the intelligence work below ground. The routine helped maintain her equilibrium, gave the twins a sense of normalcy, and demonstrated to the operatives who depended on Estrella that the facility remained functional despite the public scrutiny. A week after the arrests, with Marcus and Victoria both denied bail due to flight risk, Carmen received an unexpected visitor. Derek's mother, Patricia. "I had to see you," she said when Carmen let her in, "to understand what's happening. Derek is a mess. The girls must be confused, and you're suddenly running a gas station and at the center of this scandal." Carmen had always liked her former mother-in-law, who had been kind to her even after the divorce. Patricia had never fully approved of Stephanie, maintaining a relationship with Carmen and the twins despite her son's new marriage. "It's complicated," Carmen admitted, leading Patricia upstairs to the apartment. "But the girls are doing okay. They get that from you," Patricia observed, settling at the kitchen table. "Carmen, I need to ask, did you know?" Carmen considered how much to reveal. Patricia was trustworthy, and she deserved some explanation. "I only discovered the truth recently," she said carefully. "After Dad left me the station, I found evidence he had collected, realized what was happening, and contacted authorities. I had no idea about Stephanie until they told me she was under investigation. All these years, I thought Roberto was just a simple gas station owner. Then Derek calls me babbling about spies and millions of dollars in evidence hidden in secret rooms. It sounds like a movie plot. Parts of it are," Carmen acknowledged with a small smile. "Dad was not who we thought he was. He worked with federal agencies, provided important information. The gas station was his cover, and he was compensated well for his service. And now it's yours," Patricia noted. "All of it. The station, the money, the responsibility." She reached across the table to take Carmen's hand. "I always told Derek he was a fool to leave you. You were always the strong one, the one with integrity. Roberto saw that too, didn't he?" Carmen felt tears threaten at this unexpected validation. "Thank you for saying that. It's been overwhelming. I can imagine." Patricia squeezed her hand. "How can I help? With the girls, with anything? Just being here helps. The girls need their family around them, especially now. Their whole world has been turned upside down." Patricia promised to visit regularly, to provide whatever support she could. As she was leaving, she turned back with one more observation. "You know, seeing you here, in Roberto's place, it fits. You have his quiet strength, his dignity. The station is in good hands." The following day brought another development. Michael Reeves called to inform Carmen that Victoria's attorney had officially withdrawn their challenge to Roberto's will. "With the criminal charges pending, they've decided to stop fighting the inheritance," he explained. "Practically speaking, this means there are no more legal challenges to your ownership of Estrella or any of the assets Roberto left you." It was a small victory amid the larger chaos, but significant nonetheless. Carmen's position was now legally secure, even as her siblings faced years in federal prison. That evening, Carmen held a family meeting with the twins. They sat in the small living room above the station, the space now decorated with their belongings, family photos. "Things have been crazy these past weeks," Carmen began. "With Abuelo's secret work, Uncle Marcus and Aunt Victoria's arrests, the reporters outside. I want to check in with you both. How are you feeling about everything?" The twins exchanged one of their silent communications before Mia spoke. "It's weird. Kids at school say our family is like criminals and spies. But Abuelo wasn't a criminal. He was a hero, right?" "Absolutely," Carmen confirmed. "Your Abuelo served this country for decades. He helped keep people safe." "And Uncle Marcus and Aunt Victoria?" Luna asked. "Are they bad people now?" Carmen considered her answer carefully. "They made bad choices, serious ones. I believe they started with small compromises that led to bigger ones, until they were involved in things they shouldn't have been. But that doesn't mean they don't love you, or that you can't still care about them. Will they go to jail for a long time?" Mia's practical nature always led her to the concrete questions. "Probably," Carmen admitted. "The charges are very serious. But you can write to them, maybe visit sometimes if they want that. They're still family." Luna, always more emotional than her twin, had tears in her eyes. "Everything's different now. Dad's sad all the time when we see him. People look at us funny. And you're running a gas station and doing Abuelo's secret work." Carmen moved to sit between her daughters, putting an arm around each of them. "Yes, everything is different. But some changes are good ones. We have a stable home now. We don't have to worry about money for rent or college or medical care. and we're carrying on Abuelo's legacy, which is a tremendous honor. She took a deep breath before continuing. I've been thinking about our future, about what we want Estrella to be beyond its special functions. I'd like to rename it Roberto's Memorial Station and renovate it to be both a successful business and a tribute to your abuelo. The idea clearly resonated with the twins, who immediately began suggesting designs and features for the renovation. Their enthusiasm was infectious, reminding Carmen that amid all the complexity and pain of recent events, there was also opportunity for growth and new beginnings. Later that night, after the twins were asleep, Carmen descended to the underground facility for her nightly check-in with Elena and Harrington. They had become her mentors, guides through the transition from waitress to station operator to intelligence asset manager. The FBI concluded their interviews with Marcus today, Harrington reported. He's provided names and details on his foreign contacts, hoping for leniency. Some of it is actually valuable intelligence. And Victoria? Carmen asked, still maintaining her innocence, claiming she didn't know the source of the money flowing through her properties. Elena replied with a hint of disdain. Carmen nodded, unsurprised by her siblings' divergent approaches. Marcus had always been pragmatic to the point of amorality, while Victoria's pride would never allow her to admit wrongdoing. There's something else we wanted to discuss, Harrington said, his tone shifting. Your father left a recommendation letter for you, for a position with the CIA's Cultural Heritage Protection Program. Carmen stared at him in surprise. A job recommendation? From beyond the grave? Elena smiled slightly. Roberto believed you would be an ideal candidate. Your art background, your languages, yes, we know you speak Spanish fluently and have been studying French, and your proven integrity. The program works to recover stolen cultural artifacts and protect heritage sites from trafficking networks. It would be part-time initially, Harrington added, compatible with managing Estrella and raising your daughters. I'd like to think about it, she said finally. It's a lot to process. Of course, Elena agreed. The offer remains open. Roberto was highly respected within the agency. As Carmen returned upstairs, she paused in the store, looking around at the humble gas station that had concealed so much for so long. Her father had chosen this life deliberately, living simply while serving quietly, accumulating wealth but valuing purpose over possessions. Carmen moved to the window, looking out at the night sky. Somewhere up there, she liked to think, her father was watching, perhaps with her mother beside him. She hoped they were proud of her. Te quiero, papi, she whispered. I won't let you down. 6 months later, Estrella gas station was unrecognizable. Now, Roberto's Memorial Station, it featured modern pumps, a renovated store with a small cafe section, and a subtle star design incorporated throughout that nodded to both its name and its hidden purpose. Business had increased threefold, with both regular local customers and the special clients who came for more classified reasons. The apartment upstairs had been expanded and remodeled, providing comfortable space for Carmen and the twins. Mia and Luna, now entering their teens, had adapted remarkably well to their new reality. They helped in the store after school, were learning Spanish to honor their heritage, and understood enough about their grandfather's work to respect the security protocols. Carmen divided her time between managing the station, her new role with the Cultural Heritage Protection Program, and parenting. The wealth her father had left her remained largely untouched, aside from the station renovations and the establishment of the Roberto Rodriguez Foundation, which provided scholarships for immigrant students and support for veterans. Marcus and Victoria had both received substantial sentences, 15 years for Marcus, 12 for Victoria. Carmen visited them monthly, a difficult but necessary connection she maintained for the sake of family healing. The visits were strained, with neither sibling fully accepting responsibility for their actions, but Carmen persisted, believing that reconciliation, however limited, was worth pursuing. Derek, cleared of involvement in Stephanie's espionage activities, had undergone a surprising transformation. The humiliation of discovering his wife's true motivations, combined with the shock of the Rodriguez family revelations, had prompted genuine self-reflection. They would never reconcile romantically, but they had found a way to co-parent effectively. Elena had become a friend as well as a colleague, teaching the twins self-defense and beginning to instruct them in Russian, much to their delight. Harrington visited regularly, often bringing books or historical artifacts that connected to Carmen's work with cultural heritage protection. The underground facility continued its essential functions, now with Carmen as its primary manager. She had proven adept at the work, her natural intelligence and attention to detail making her a quick study. The operatives who depended on Estrella as a safe location had accepted her readily, many commenting that she reminded them of Roberto. On this particular evening, Carmen stood behind the counter, watching as Luna helped a customer select coffee beans from the new gourmet section while Mia restocked the refrigerated drinks. Elena entered, now a familiar presence that required no pretense. "Good evening, Rodriguez family," she greeted, accepting the cup of coffee Luna immediately prepared for her. "How's business?" "Steady," Carmen replied with a smile. Both kinds. They had developed a shorthand for discussing the dual nature of Estrella's operations. "I have news," Elena said, lowering her voice slightly. The team in Budapest recovered the artifacts. Carmen felt a surge of satisfaction. Her work with the Cultural Heritage Program had recently focused on tracking stolen medieval manuscripts believed to be moving through Eastern Europe. Her contribution had helped recover priceless historical documents before they disappeared into private collections. "That's wonderful," she said. "Will they be returned to the original museum?" Elena nodded, with appropriate credit to the anonymous expert who made it possible. After Elena departed and the twins went upstairs to start homework, Carmen took a moment to walk through the store, appreciating how far they had come in 6 months. The renovations had transformed the physical space, but the deeper transformation had been within herself and her daughters. They had gone from struggling financially to managing millions, from being mocked by their wealthy relatives to understanding the true meaning of success and service. Carmen paused at the newly installed memorial plaque near the entrance. It featured a photograph of Roberto on the day he purchased Estrella, along with a simple inscription, "Roberto Rodriguez, 1952,022, immigrant, entrepreneur, American patriot." His greatest legacy was not what he owned, but what he stood for. The words captured the essence of her father's life and the lesson Carmen hoped to pass on to her daughters. Have you ever discovered something valuable that others overlooked? Or perhaps you've been underestimated by family members, only to prove them wrong in the end? Share your stories in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your experiences with hidden value and unexpected discoveries. And if you enjoyed Carmen's journey from struggling single mother to the keeper of her father's extraordinary legacy, please consider subscribing to our channel. Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface. The most important truths often lie hidden, waiting for someone with the courage and vision to reveal them.